children, I'm Amit. I'm back with part 2 of the government budget. Children, in the first part, we studied about the meaning of budget and objectives of government budget. Now, in this part, we will move further. First, we will talk about components of budget. So, as you can see in the slide, the whole budget can be divided as revenue budget and capital budget. Revenue budget can again be divided into revenue receipts and revenue expenditure, while capital budget can be divided into capital receipt and capital expenditure. Alternatively, we have another way of classifying the components of budgets, and that is receipts and expenditure. Things remain same, just we have rearranged them. Now under receipts we have revenue receipts and capital receipt, and under expenditure we have revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Now we will be talking about them in detail in the next few slides. So first we talk about budgetary receipts. So as we have seen in the previous slide, we have two types of receipts, revenue receipts and capital receipts. Revenue receipts are those receipts which do not reduce assets and they do not create liability. Children, remember, they do not create reduce assets, they do not create liability. While capital receipts, they will either reduce assets or they will create liability. Now first let's understand what is a receipt. Then we will be talking about what these things mean. Receipt is basically a type of income of the government. Just like we have income at our home, similarly the receipts are the income of the government. It's very simplistic way to explain it. So revenue receipts are those types of receipts for which we don't have to sell away any of the assets. Neither we have to borrow for them. So that means neither assets get reduced nor liabilities get created. It is just like someone comes to your home, your relatives come and give money to you. So this has not reduced the asset of your house, neither it has created liability for you. On the other hand, capital receipts, they reduce assets or they create liability. Now suppose you are going to pursue higher education, and for that your parents may not be having enough money. So what they will do? They will sell off land or gold which they have. This will reduce the asset. While the other option is they may take a loan from the bank. This will create future liability for them. So in this case, either it is going to reduce assets or it is going to create liability. So children, we can easily understand. Definitely revenue receipts are the better receipts for the government. Now to remember them, you can see a box in which I have classified them as receipt types. Then remember students one thing, when we talk about receipts, we have to focus on asset reduction and liability creation. Please be very careful with this box. Whenever we are talking about receipts, we are talking about asset reduction or liability creation. So under revenue receipts, no asset reduction is there, no liability creation is there. While under capital receipts, either assets will get reduced or liability is going to be created. This is how we can remember. So one very easy way I am telling you, you just remember one of them. The other one is just opposite of it. So what I will recommend you, you just remember revenue receipt. No. Just you have to remember that it is asset reduction and liability creation which we are talking about in receipts. Now we will take these receipts one by one. First, revenue receipts. Revenue receipts can again be classified as tax revenue, non-tax revenue, or we may simply call them tax receipts and non-tax receipts. Tax receipts can again be alternatively divided into direct taxes and indirect taxes. So we will be talking about tax receipts first, then we'll be talking about non-tax receipts. So let's see what is a tax revenue or a tax receipt. It is a compulsory payment by a person or a firm with no quid pro quo. That means if your income comes under the slab which is decided by the government, then you have to compulsorily pay. You cannot avoid. Remember, children, here we have two terms, tax evasion and tax aversion, which I would like to make it clear. Tax evasion is when you are not reporting proper income to the tax authorities, while tax aversion is you are reporting properly, but government has given variety of schemes under which if you invest, you may save tax. So tax aversion is not illegal, but tax evasion is. So coming back, so if you are under the income tax slab or the tax slab, you will have to pay. You don't have any other option. Then second thing is no quid pro quo. That means you cannot demand equal return. So if you are paying 20,000 at tax as a tax in a year, then in that year you may not expect that the government will be spending the same amount for you. Government may or may not spend the same amount. Next we move on to types of taxes. As we have already seen, direct taxes and indirect taxes. Broadly, we classify the taxes as direct and indirect taxes, progressive and regressive taxes, ad valorem and specific taxes. Now we will take up one classification at a time. So first we talk about what is a direct tax. A direct tax is such a tax the burden of which cannot be shifted to others. The person who will pay the tax will have to bear the burden also. Just I will take the example of income tax. Suppose my salary is more than 5 lakh in a year. Now I am supposed to pay the tax to the government. Suppose I pay 10,000 as a tax in a year. Now this 10,000 I will be paying to the government and I cannot shift it to some other person. The ultimate burden will also fall on me. Now the examples are reflected on the screen. Examples of direct taxes are income tax, corporation tax, interest tax, wealth tax, gift tax, estate duty. So income tax is very popular, you all know. Corporation tax is the profit tax. Also we can call it profit tax. It is the tax which the corporations pay on their profits. Interest tax is when you are saving in a bank in the form of FDs and your interest rate which you are getting from them is above a stipulated limit, then you will have to pay tax. Then we have wealth tax, gift tax, estate duty. Next, we talk about indirect taxes. So indirect taxes, they are such taxes, the burden of which can be shifted. One person pays it while the other person bears the burden. Just take an example of a industry which is making dusters. Now suppose it costs 20 rupees for the firm to produce that duster. Now the firm is ready to sell it at 20 rupees. But suppose government imposes an excise duty on that is equivalent to 20%. Now the tax calculation is 4 rupees. Now that duster producing firm is going to pay this 4 rupees to the government. But what will it do? It will add that 4 rupees to the price of the duster and it will get 24 rupees from the customer. So in this case, students, you can see that at the first place, who paid the tax? It was the firm. But ultimately, who is bearing the burden? The customer who has purchased that duster. So examples of indirect taxes are GST, goods and services tax, then sales tax, entertainment tax, excise duties, custom duties, and service taxes. Next, we come to another classification, progressive tax and regressive tax. The standard book definition is progressive tax. It is a rate of tax when rate of tax increases with an increase in income, then we call it progressive tax. As we can see in our income slabs, up to 5 to 10 lakh, a certain percentage of income, then 10 to 15 lakh, that rate of tax increases, then again it increases, and so on. This is what a standard book definition says. Then we have regressive tax. In this case, rate of tax decreases with an increase in income. That is, if you have more income, you will be charged lesser rate of tax. But remember, ultimately, the tax paid is not decreasing, it increases. But remember, children, taxes, this is not the proper classification of progressive and regressive tax. It is actually who bears the burden. Suppose any tax policy a government comes with. In that tax policy, the tax imposed, on whom the burden is going to fall more. If the burden falls more on rich people, it is progressive tax. If the burden falls more on poor people, then it is a regressive tax. Let's take an example. If the government imposes tax on air conditioners. Now, children, you know that who is consuming air conditioners? It is the rich section. So, rich section will be paying that tax. So, this is progressive in nature. Now, if the government plans to impose tax on edible oil, sarson ka tel, now what will happen? You will say that a poor and rich alike, they are spending the same amount on that. No, we have to talk about proportion of income which they are spending. Poor are spending more proportion of the income on edible oil, while the rich are comparatively lesser, isn't it? So the burden is falling more on poor. So such a tax structure is said to be regressive in nature. Next classification was value added tax or ad valorem tax and specific taxes. So value added tax, it is imposed on value added. Suppose a thread mill purchases cotton from the farmer for 500 rupees. Now it prepares the thread and sells the thread at 800 rupees. Now the tax imposed will be not on the value of output of the firm, that is 800. No, the government is imposing tax on the value added by the firm. So value added is equal to 800 minus 500, that is 300. So the firm will be paying tax on those 300. Such type of tax is called ad valorem or value added tax. On the other hand, we have specific taxes where the taxes are levied on the basis of the units, number of units, or maybe the size of the item, maybe weight of the item, volume of the item, etc. Okay, next we move on to non-tax revenue or non-tax receipts. So it is the revenue earned by the government other than taxes. But remember, it is also neither reducing asset nor creating any liability. So examples are interest receipts, the interest which the government gets on the loans which it has given to foreign countries or states. Then profits and dividends which the government receives from its PSUs. Then fees like you go for a birth certificate or a death certificate. In such case, you pay fees. Then we have when you go for land registration, then also you pay fees. Then we have license fee if you want to have a revolver, if you want to get license to drive a car, then you have to pay license fee. Then we have fines and penalties. Now, these fines and penalties generally, when you are breaking some law, it may be imposed by the treasury, it may be imposed by the courts, etc. Escheat. Escheat is something when a person dies without a legal heir. Legal heir. There is no one to claim his property. That means that person has died. There is no near and dear one who has come to claim that property, nor he has written any will. So that will go to government. Next is gifts and grants. It may be from the people or from the foreign countries or international institutions. Then for features, suppose government has imposed a tax, court has imposed some fine on us, and we are not paying it, then the government will forfeit our property, sell it, and this will be also a revenue. Then we have a special assessment tax. Now see, we have classified it under non-tax revenue, but I am writing a special assessment tax. Actually, the word tax is used, but it is not tax in nature, because taxes are generally recurring in nature, but this is not recurring in nature. It is one-time fees. It is one-time development fees. Example, you have purchased a land somewhere out in the outskirts of the city. There was no development, only land was there, no road, nothing. But government has now started a development plan over there, and what the government is doing is, in that area the government is has started making roads, put the electric poles, also water supply, and all these things have been given there. Now because of this, the property rates have gone up, so your property rate has also gone up. So what the government can do, government can impose a one time development fee from you. This is what is special assessment tax. Okay, next we have capital receipts. So capital receipts, they either create liability or reduce asset, as we have already done there. So capital receipts can be either debt creating, that is it creates liability, or non-debt creating, that is they reduce assets. So borrowings is a part of debt creating capital receipts. Borrowings, the government can borrow from RBI, that is called deficit financing. Then the government can borrow through open market operations of RBI. Then government can borrow from foreign governments, or the government can borrow from international institutions like Asian Development Bank. Then we have World Bank, IMF, etc. Non-debt creating liabilities are, they generally reduce assets. Recovery of loans, when the government gives loans to foreign countries, government gives loans to states, when uh, uh, eh, these institutions, that is states or foreign countries, return this is what is recovery of loans. Now recovery of loans, earlier it was a part of asset of the government, but now it has been returned, so assets get reduced. On the other hand, government can also get receipts from disinvestment, that is selling of public sector enterprises, maybe partial share selling or entire public sector unit selling. Now, children, classify these as revenue or capital receipts. Loan from World Bank, fees of government college, dividends on investments made by government, foreign aid against earthquake victims, disinvestment of PSUs. Now take your time, you can pause the video and just try out, and then we can see the answers. So the answers are here. First one was capital receipt, next three were revenue receipt, and the last one was capital receipt. So children, we end up the second part of government budget here. We'll meet again for the third part. Till then, bye bye.